Hey guys, it's Michael here. Today we're going to be working on extending the track of the mill. I'm going to be extending about 8 more feet so I can cut 22-foot long beams. We're hopefully down the road I'm going to be able to cut some long beams and extend this whole area and cover the mill. That's been something I wanted to do, but that's another video down the road. But yeah, we're going to be extending the track today. We're going to be welding with the Omnipro quite a bit up here. I've had it for about a year now. It's been working great. I kind of go over a few more things about it, what I like about it, and so we talk about that in the video. I do some welding, and I'm using the quad truck quite a bit in this video here. I had to clean up the mill site, hauling a bunch of sawdust out of here, firewood, cleaning everything up, so we're using that quite a bit. And I've been using the quad truck as kind of a service truck these days as well, bringing the welder and grinders and tools and material up here. So if you guys are interested in that, stick around and check out the video.
Alright, got my little buddy up here today. He's dancing with the speaker box here. We're going to be moving the quad truck once we get some of these logs out of the way, back it in here. We're going to be moving this sawdust pile out. It's been kind of building up over the years, and kind of knock all that down today and kind of clean up the mill site, kind of get ready for fall here. Look at him dancing. One quad load here, about ready to haul out, and kind of forget when you're milling how this kind of builds up over time, how much room I lost over here. Sawdust been right down to the track almost, so gonna gain quite a few feet. I think there's at least 7-8 feet worth of room here. It'll be nice to get that all cleared out of here. Alright, second quad load. Didn't really make much more of a dent in this thing. I think there might be like 5 or 6 more loads here. Anyways, gaining some more room here, and I'm going to start working on clearing out the scrap pile of all the offcuts. We're cutting into firewood here, and going to be hauling it out with the quad truck. I'm planning to extend the track today. I got some extra pallet racking, and I got some angle iron here, and I'm hoping to extend another 8 or 9 feet out this way. So all that has to move here. So I made this scrap wood rack practically just out of scrap. I got to rebuild it sometime. It's not super sturdy. Make a better one, but pretty much just have some uprights so I can go through here and cut the chainsaw right down between the uprights and cut the 16-inch of the firewood. So show you how this works here. Pretty self-explanatory, really. One thing nice about having a sawmill is you don't have to split nearly as much wood. Your byproduct's firewood, so it's kind of a nice thing. Every time you're milling, doing something like that, you're kind of getting ahead on your firewood. Well, we got all that wood packed up on the quad truck in 2 loads. This is the second load. I'm going to haul it up to the woodshed and get rid of it. Now I'm going to pack up the welder and grinder and some tools, and we're going to start extending the track here. Alright, down to my shop here. I got the quad truck loaded up. Got the Vulcan welder in here. Got a metal cutting circular saw, some angle grinders, various tools. I'm sure there's something else I forgot I'm going to have to make another trip for, but we're going to head up to the mill and start working on that track extension. Alright, got all the tools up here. I'm looking over the project. So this is a section of pallet racking, this rusty stuff that I'm going to extend the mill with. And I have some angle iron right here. And over in the stack over here, there's a piece of pallet racking crossbars. like this, but it's an inch shorter, so I'm going to have to do something to shim it up. This clamp I never really use. I usually just use this one for when I'm milling, so I'm going to take this clamp here instead of rebuilding it, cutting it off and extend it, putting it somewhere over in this range. So I'm going to start taking this stuff apart here. I have my power feed chain I'm going to pull off of here and start figuring out what's going to take to extend this.
Alright you guys, we got the Omnipro running on about 50 feet of pretty small diameter extension cord, but last time I welded up here it worked just fine. We're just welding like 1/8 inch stuff anyways, but not the ideal situation with a big pile of wood next to me, but we got a hose close by and we got a fire extinguisher. So we're going to get starting on extending the track here in Welding. So I got this salvage angle iron. It's not as long as I want on this side, but I'm going to extend the end a little further. But to get this lined up, and this is how I originally built the mill, was I set the mill carriage on the angle iron, tacked it on one edge, and then slowly brought the mill forward as I welded it down to keep it all in line with the V casters. And then tack weld it and just keep moving the mill forward and welding it every 16 inches along the way.
So on this mill, when I first built it, I salvaged most of the angle iron, same as this one here where I'm adding on. And I just grind every seam at a 45 where I butt them together, weld them at the base, and then I just fill this in and then just go over it with an angle grinder. And it seems to work pretty well. So there it is. Should roll over that pretty smooth now. Alright, coming along pretty well. I just have to weld this little hanger I have on here, which shuts off a limit switch, and I connect the power feed chain too, so I'm going to weld that on there.
It's kind of a nastier day out today. I'm getting back going on the mill here, and it's a little wet out, but anyways, I learned something interesting about the Vulcan the other day. I was asking too much out of some small extension cords, and I'm running it. I thought it was about 50 feet. It's more like maybe 80 to 90 feet on 14 gauge. Way too small extension cords. And it must have some voltage and amperage protection in it because it must have got drawn down too low. Every time I was trying to weld 1/8 inch on here, it'd weld for about a second and then it would spool out, stop arcing, and it would spool out about 6 inches of wire, and clipped it off, went to go weld again, arc for about a second and then stop and then spool out 6 inches of wire. But at that point I realized it must have been just shutting down the arc because it must have not had enough amperage and voltage up here. So I grabbed some 12 gauge extension cord and it's running fine. So it's kind of nice they put that in there. It's a nice extra little feature for the thing. Well guys, I got up here, just shot a little bit of video talking about the welder. I was out for about 10-15 minutes and just started pouring down rain, so I packed up the stuff before it got too soaked and parked it in the shed. But yeah, it's just kind of getting mucky, nasty up here. There's that saying, make hay when the sun shines. Up here it was nice and dry the other day. I was working on it and then something came up and it got sidetracked. I had to change plans, and this is the next day I could get up here, and of course it's pouring down rain. So hopefully it dries up and I can get back to this later today. Put away all the tools. The Vulcan got a little bit of a bath, but I think everything should be fine. Well, I've had this Vulcan welder for about a year now. I got it last October, and I just want to give you guys a little update on it. I've had 0 problems with it. I'm completely happy with it. I feel it's money well spent. It's been a good welder. It's so nice to have multi-voltage, 220, 110. As you see, just recently I was up welding at my mill, and of course I was running too small of an extension cord, and we realized that it's got some type of voltage and amperage protection in there. Shuts itself down if it has too low amperage, and that was a really nice feature to see. I've never ran it that far on extension cord, and at least it's got some protection in there, so it's not going to just burn itself out. I think they really thought out this thing pretty well for being an inexpensive welder. But for me, this is all the welder I really need. It does everything I need it to do. I'm not a professional welder. I weld like 2 days a week here. We do a few days a week at my shop. And so it's like I weld quite often, but it's not something I do as an everyday thing all day long. But it's held up great for me, and I've done some aluminum spool gun welding with it. That's been really nice. Knowing what I know with owning the welder for a year, would I buy it again? Completely yes. It's been a solid welder. I've been really happy. It fits my needs. It's been a good machine. It's kind of funny though. Miller guys are very particular. I did that video a while back where I ran it side by side with my buddy's Miller, and I just wanted to run it and show the features of both welders. I wasn't leaning towards one was better than the other or anything like that, and kind of piss the Miller guys off. They are very sensitive about those things. They're both good welders. They both welded really well. If you're a Miller guy, stick with Miller. I'm not trying to twist your arm, talk you out of it. If you want to try one of these out, go for it. I've been happy with it. I hope you're happy with it. I hope it works well. Bottom line is, I don't think any of these computer-based welders are going to last a lifetime. I don't think they're going to be something you're going to pass on to your grandchildren. That's just the way it is. They're computer welders, you know. If you want an old, super old welder that's going to last a long time, buy a 100-pound welder, you know, old technology. They will hold up for a long time. That's fine. Get something good and used. But the features this thing has and that Miller has, they're nice, they're lightweight, they're portable. I have had no problems with this whatsoever. I hope it stays that way for a long period of time. My buddy's Miller in that video, he's actually sent back twice now and is having some intermittent issues with it and is kind of trying to resolve it, but they don't seem to fix it every time he sends it back. So I hope that all these welders are trouble-free for people for a long time, but just because you buy Miller or a name brand doesn't mean you're going to be completely trouble-free. I hope I'm trouble-free with this, but you never know. It's Harbor Freight, you know? But just because you buy a $2,000 welder rather than a $1,000 welder does not completely exclude you from having problems with it. So anyways, that's just my thought on it. They're good, multi-purpose welders. They work really well, but they're not going to last a lifetime. That's all it is.
Live long and prosper.
All right, well, it rained like crazy yesterday. Everything got really soaked. Never got a chance to get back out here, but today the sun's coming out this morning. Some blue sky. We'll see if the camera will pick that up. There we go. And I got about 3 hours to work on this before I have to do some other stuff. So I'm finishing up the power feed post and limit switch post, and we're gonna get working on the bunks after that. One thing I don't know if I've ever mentioned in any other videos is it does have post flow. So if you click it, the gas will run for about 3 seconds after. I don't really think it's that necessary for my feeling on steel, but probably stainless steel would be helpful to add that shielding gas after you're done welding. Me and my brother just picked up a Makita electric chainsaw for just doing trail clearing in the fall and winter if a tree falls across the trail when you're out dirt biking. It's pretty small, it packs down. It's been a really good little saw, but in the kit it also included a cordless angle grinder. And man, this tool has been super useful. I don't have legit power up with the mill. I just have 12 volts off my battery up here. Had to run extension cord, so this just helps out a little bit for little odds and ends around here. So here's my little limit switch for the chain drive. Still have to put the chain on here, but for the power feed. So when that comes forward, that bumps up against it and shuts it off. And this side, in case something happens, I also have this little limit on here. Had a C-clamp at the end of the old setup for years. This finally just made a little more legit of a stopper. And because the angle iron, I had to get a little extra distance between this point and the blade is, I think, I don't know, 12 or 14 inches. So I added a little extra length on the track to get a little bit more out here, a little more cut distance. Just put a little angle iron at the bottom to kind of strengthen it a little more. So we're done with all that. Hook up the chain and then do the bunks. Well, here's some 40 pitch chain I ordered from Surplus Center. This actually was for my son's little excavator track project. To drive the wheels, but I probably won't be done with the wheels and everything like that for about another year or so. He's still pretty young, so I'm going to use it for this. Anyway, Surplus Center is a good place to get stuff. I'm not sponsored by any way from those guys, but I order a lot of my, you know, little bits and pieces like that from those guys, belts and chains and stuff. Only thing that gets you is their shipping. Their shipping is outrageous, so weigh that out. But yeah, I think this is like 10 feet for around 10 or 12 bucks or something. A few bucks for some master links. Not a bad deal. Some of this chain's been out in the rain. It still flexes, it's fine, but it's kind of rusty, the stuff that's been out towards the open area here. So I'm going to put a fresh chunk of chain on here. on this side and gets rid of some of the rusty on the other side. But anyways, I think I showed this how I set it up in the power feed video, but real simple way of attachment. I just got this 1-inch square tubing coming up, all thread, a nut on there, and I just flattened the sides of the all thread and drilled a hole through it to put a master link on there. Real simple way to attach a chain so you can just run down to the power feed. I know some people use cable, and if you did, I'd like to, maybe you can link me to a video and see how you get it around the drum. If you just wrap it around a few turns, it just spools itself up and down. But chain works good for me. I've had no problems with it. Yeah, so make a comment if you made a power feed, and if you did, if you use chain or cable. It'd be interesting to know. Dang it, it's getting windy. And rain's starting again, so I think I'm gonna have to pack up the welder and stuff. But anyways, I just came up with this. This is how I'm gonna level these bunks. This material here I'm gonna cut and weld, but it's actually 4 inches, and this material is actually 5 inches tall. So what I did was I went through and dropped my mill down so it just sits on this level right here, and that sets the gap. So I'm gonna bring it along here and check the gap on every one of these and continue on with that all the way down. I should be able to get all the bunks level this way and the right height. Well, I'm back out here, and sun's out again. It's a few days later now. Got a little more time to work on this, so I'm gonna start cutting these bunks down. Like I said, this is 4 inches rather than the 5 on the other existing one, so I'm gonna have to shim it up about 1 inch, but we'll figure out how to do that in a moment. So I'm gonna start cutting it down. All right, just got this final bunk in here. I decided to just do one rather than two. I put it, all my other bunks are 4 feet apart, and I put this one at 5 just because mainly if I get anything this long, just been cutting long beams anyways, it should work out. A lot of weird notching just because I have these low bearing blocks here. So I got that. The only thing I need to do is do a can't stop bar right here that's adjustable, and I can start getting ready to paint this thing. I think I mentioned this earlier in the video, but I always use this clamp. I don't really want to rebuild another one of these. I don't use this one, so I'm going to actually cut it off of here, move it down to somewhere in this range. Should be good to go. Well, finishing up some of the final touches. Sometimes it's hard to just push through and just get the last little bits of it done, but I needed another can't stop on here, and so I went down to my shop and dug up a scrap of 1.25 inches right here, and I cut it to about 2.5 inches, and I took the inside seam with a die grinder and cleaned out this weld seam, so 1 inch will just slide right through. And this is going to be the can't stop. It's going to get welded on right over here. And what I also did was drill the hole at a 45-degree angle, welded a nut on there, and welded a piece of round rod to the nut or the bolt. And it's tool free. It's just kind of nice to have that kind of stuff. Anytime I can actually eliminate a wrench or anything for a simple adjustment, I will. Just put a little tool free stuff like this on here. I think it just speeds up the whole process of milling. If you want to drop these down, you just loosen it, drop them down, tighten it, and you don't have to get any tools out. So yep, gonna weld this on here and get some paint out and start painting it. Here's the track painted. I only had about a half a can, so I ran out, but I'm gonna go pick up some more. And after seeing that fresh paint over here, I'm gonna recoat the rest of the mill. It'd be nice. It's been about 3.5, 4 years since I built it, so freshen it up with some new paint. And had an idea that I think will be pretty useful. If you have 2 logs about similar diameter, you can put an 8-foot log on this bunk and lock it down, and then another 8-foot log in these bunks. And it'd be really nice to be able to mill 2 8-foot logs at the same time on here, get twice the siding. I think it'd be a pretty nice little thing, so I think we're gonna try that out soon. Alright you guys, I've had a few viewers ask some questions about the mill, so I'm gonna go over a little more, some of these parts in a little more detail here. One person asked how I track it, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Another person wanted to know how the whole mill head assembly comes up and down on here, how I'm attached to the bars. So we'll go over tracking first. Pretty much it's the motorcycle swing arms right here, and motorcycle wheels and axle bolt, and just like adjusting any chain or anything wheel alignment, you can loosen this jam nut and tighten this or loosen this, and that changes the pitch of the wheel this way or that way. So yeah, you can pretty much track it. It would be like the same as adjusting chain on a motorcycle and centering it in the swing arm, or if you want to tip it in or out a little bit, you can do it with these bolts. There's another one on this side. So that's pretty much the tracking. Let's move this mill out a little further so I have better lighting here. There's the power feed running down here. Pretty smooth, works good. Okay, that should be good. So, Here's the uprights on the mill, come up and down. That's the main frame for the carriage. And here's where the mill slides up and down on these. What I ended up doing, I was kind of short on metal, and I just had some angle iron. So I put some heavy duty angle iron running this way, and then another one that's welded to it that comes around the side. So it makes like a big squared off C. As you see, this side doesn't have anything, but there's strips of UHMW here and here and back here. And I screwed that UHMW with countersinking it into the metal, and I ran these adjustment bolts on here, so when you tighten these down, it puts pressure that way on the UHMW and this way. The fronts don't have it because you don't really need it up there, but it takes the play out of it going this way and this way. And I got the same setup right over here, some more adjustment bolts there and there. These are a little harder to see because it's behind this carriage, there and there. And so yeah, it works pretty good. I mean, there's probably better ways to go about it, but it's been working fine for me so far. Alright, well, we're to the end of the video here. I was really hoping to put a 22-foot long log on here and mill it into a beam and wrap up the video, but really don't feel like getting the chainsaw out. It's wet out. It's been wet off and on this whole week. Been working on this thing, and in the Northwest you can rely on having really crappy weather this time of year, so that's what we're dealing with. I'm hoping in the next week or two I can post a video of milling up some long beams, and hopefully start working on this area here, start expanding this and covering it so I'm not out in the rain trying to mill with this kind of weather. Thanks for sticking around, checking out the video. If you guys liked it, hit like and subscribe. If you have any nice comments, I'd love to hear from them. If you have rude comments, save them. I don't really want to hear them. Alright, you guys, thanks so much for sticking around. Take care. Bye.